Today on the Topic Show, we review the top highlights of the Joe Rogan experience interviewing Donald J. Trump, as well as the insane demands that Kamala Harris has in order to interview her. All of that and much more on the Topping Show. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of the Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency in IT security. Heck, I see they're found at least twice a day. Gotta say, he's quite handsome and brilliant. He's me, see, that's the joke. If you're an IT leader or business owner, you can reach out to the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, giving away a free flamethrower with every IT purchase. Yes, it can be attached to an AR-15 thanks to an attachment. Just go to toppingtechnologies.com to learn more how you get a free flamethrower with every IT purchase. Lastly, trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of the month. So if you can click that button and tell your friends, I would greatly appreciate it. Now going to the first highlight today, you have Joe Rogan and Donald Trump on the weaponization of government by Democrats. Now this is first reposted thanks to conservative War Machine on the good old X, or as 18 people still call it, Twitter, in which he says, quote, "Watch Joe Rogan and President Donald Trump discuss the weaponization of government by Democrats and attacks on free speech."
And then the liberals are now pro silencing criticism. They're pro censorship online. They're talking about regulating free speech and now regulating the First Amendment. It's bananas to watch.
Joe, they come after their political opponent.
Well, they do.
Got more guys. I always say, I kid, but I'm not kidding. I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone. He was the meanest of them all. He'd kill you in 2 seconds if he didn't like you, right? I've been under investigation more than Alphonse Capone, only because it's political opponent stuff. And I've won. I won the big case in Florida. I'm winning the other stuff. You win. But you know what they did? They did something that's only done in third world countries. They came after their political opponent.
Yes.
I could have put crooked Hillary in jail.
Well, not only that, but they're weaponizing it by saying that that's what you're going to do once you get in office.
Isn't it
great? By ignoring what they're doing right now. It's crazy.
I heard it. Somebody was defending me today. They said, no, they say that's what you're doing to him. They're going, he's going to put us in jail. He's going to invest.
That's what you're doing.
That's what you're doing to him.
Yeah.
A lot of people say, will you do that? Will you do that to him, to them, if you win? The presidency has tremendous power. I could have put crooked Hillary in
I respected
jail.
that you didn't, because what you said was it would be bad for the country.
No, I can't. I couldn't even imagine. You have, first of all, Secretary of State, but more importantly, the wife of the president.
Although on that note, it also makes me kind of concerned in terms of, we used to have the mutually assured destruction, which was, policy or theory first between the United States and the Soviet Union. Well, a lot of people say that Democrats and leftists will keep abusing power because Republicans continue to do nothing. So while Donald Trump would have been perhaps the first, some people debate that, well, maybe he should have. Personally, I don't think he should have, but then again, that's led to them entirely with lawfare against him with basically no repercussions.
Of the United States of America going into jail. And if you ever saw, when I'd say something about her, they'd all say, I didn't say it, I never said it. They say, lock her up, lock her. And I'd always go, take it easy, just relax, we're going to win this thing, take it easy, take it easy. And I'm telling you, I kept it down, just the opposite. Now they say, oh, Trump wanted to put her in jail. No, I saved her from going to jail. They had more stuff on her. And Comey had it, because when Comey got up, and he stupidly, because he's a stupid guy too, he's a stupid son of a bitch. He got up, Joe, and instead of saying she's innocent of all charges, he went over each charge, and each charge was a killer. And he'd go, and as far as her doing this, she's innocent. And this, and then she's only an unfair prosecutor for it. Would go. But every time you heard these charges, they sounded so bad. They were bad. And all it was is he wanted more airtime. If he would have gone up and said, I've thoroughly investigated Hillary Clinton and she's done nothing that we feel is wrong, it would have ended. Instead, he wanted to be up there because he's a PR hound. He's a hog. And he starts going through and you know what he had? They had a huge problem because FBI is great. The people there, not the top people, the people. The real people, the people that work there. It's like the real generals that I told you about that defeated ISIS in record time. The FBI guys are great. I'll bet you I'd be at 95% in the FBI
I bet that's right.
Underneath.
Yeah.
And so here's the thing. So he goes with Hillary, and instead of just saying, he goes through each charge.
Right.
And
Which
even
looks
I was
damning.
saying, man, those are bad charges.
Sounds terrible because
And
it's
this is
associating
before I
her
got
with those charges.
Don't forget, this is before I got there.
Right.
Now, he was trying to protect her, but he did her a great disservice.
Because he wanted attention.
He was...
Yep. And yet Republicans continue to do nothing, so I don't see how this will actually stop anytime soon. Perhaps I'm just not very optimistic about this specific topic. But let me know, do you think, at the end of the day, I mean, that was one of the biggest things to talk about. I mean, a lot of people said Trump should have actually had Hillary prosecuted for crimes, didn't, I mean, the steal of the SCA. Of course, she just got slapped on the wrist with like a couple $100,000 fine, which is, for her, nothing. But let me know in the comments, because, as always, be fascinating to hear what you have to say. Other interesting news or highlights from the Joe Rogan Donald Trump interview, they review the differences between Trump as well as Kamala Harris, which are, as Trump would say, huge and great and vast, more than the Grand Canyon. Probably, some to that extent. Now, pulling that up really quick here. This actually just posted thanks to Nick Floor. He says, quote, "This is awesome. Joe Rogan highlights the differences between Kamala Harris, Tony AF, and Donald Trump, which is why Trump is crushing her."
So I always got more publicity than other people, and it wasn't like I was trying. In fact, I don't know exactly why. Maybe you can tell me why.
Oh, I could definitely tell you. You said a lot of wild shit.
Maybe.
Maybe you said a lot of wild shit, and then CNN, in all their brilliance, by highlighting your wild shit, made you much more popular.
Yeah.
And they boosted you in the polls because people were tired of someone talking in this bullshit, pre-prepared politician lingo. And even if they didn't agree with you, they at least knew whoever that guy is, that's him. That's really him. Yeah. When you see certain people talk, certain people in the public eye, you don't know who they are. You have no idea who they are. It's very difficult to know. You see them in conversations. They have these pre-planned answers. They say everything. It's very rehearsed. You never get to the meat of it. One of the beautiful things about you is that you freeball. Like, you get out and you do these huge events, and you're just talking, and you're making. We've highlighted you on the show many times when you did this Biden impression where he's walking around, he doesn't know what he's doing. It's funny. It's stand up. It's funny stuff. But it's like you and you were making fun of Elon one time. You were doing an Elon impression. It's great. You have like comedic instincts. Like when you said to Hillary, "You'd be in jail." Like that's great timing.
Yeah. But
it's like that kind of stuff was unheard of as a politician. Like no one had done that. And I think
it's funny.
It's like, looks like that was also reposted on Instagram by Prince Carlton, apparently. And yeah, it's one of those things where, just as cliche as it sounds, with the authenticity or lack thereof of Kamala Harris, I mean, shoot, that's one of the biggest critiques against her, as well as her myriad of policies, which none of which makes sense or would be good for the country. But nevertheless, I mean, no one really thinks she's real. She changes her accent more than she changes her policies. And shoot, that's one of the things, I think that's one of the major reasons why they never allowed Kamala Harris on camera until realistically to the final moment where they really couldn't wait any longer. And that's one of the reasons she's cratering in the polls. I mean, shoot, you have the betting market having Trump leading by what, more than a 15-point spread? And can't help but think the only people voting for Kamala Harris, or mostly, are the people who will vote for blue no matter who. In which case, yeah, it really doesn't matter how inept that person is. They're going to vote for the party, which I'm not sure who has benefited for the past 3.5 years, but nevertheless, they're going to vote for her regardless, or the party regardless. Doesn't matter really necessarily whose name is on the ballot. But when I talk to more and more people, I mean, Trump is just more real to them. He's more authentic. And you don't see him changing his accent every. I mean, that's one of the most comical things about Kamala. She changes her accent every 15 seconds, as well as her policies, which is why no one should. I mean, no one should believe her policies in terms of maybe switch up one or two things in your political career. If you have a coming to Jesus moment or some type of cataclysmic event or some reason to really persuade you. But I mean, she's even flipped on things that she was like her whole career. She's really against fracking. Well, now she's for it. And she was all about gun grabs, and during the debate, she claimed she was a gun owner. I can't but think, again, if we had a good debater during the presidential debate, they should have said, "Great, what kind of gun do you have?" And I'm sure she would have just had a blank stare, because I'm pretty sure she has. If she does own a gun, she probably has no idea what even is it, what even manufacturer, make, or model it is. You got alone how to actually safely utilize it or shoot it. Kind of like Tim Walz saying how he's a gun owner, and he couldn't even, he apparently did have a shotgun, but he can't even load it or troubleshoot it once it got jammed, which, again, of all the things we use in life, one of the simplest things, partially because of reliability, I mean, mechanics of a firearm are pretty darn simple. They're pretty intuitive, and you should be able to clear a jam, especially if it's just a semi-auto shotgun. But I partially digress. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting highlights from the Donald Trump-Joe Rogan interview, you have them talking about the mainstream media flipping with The View, where, I mean, Donald Trump for decades is beloved. They all loved him on The View, and yet, yeah, as soon as he got some momentum as a presidential candidate, The View, as well as mainstream media, entirely flipped on him, which, to me, I would hope would actually signal more people I should not believe the mainstream media, whether it's Fox News or CNN or MSNBC. I mean, they've had so many lies, it's hard to keep track of them. Now, going to this specific clip, it is actually posted thanks to John Cast over on the good old X Twitter, in which he says, quote, Joe Rogan highlights surprising old footage of Donald Trump on The View. Viewers are stunned by the warm reception Trump once received. It's hard to believe how differently he was treated back then. Let's see here. And actually, it's just a quote Joe Rogan, and Lord knows his voice is infinitely better than mine. We'll go ahead and play his voice here. See here.
It was the episode of you when you were on The View, and I think it was 2015 or 2006, like when you were running for president.
Right.
And you got introduced as our friend Donald Trump.
That's right.
Whoopi Goldberg gives you a big hug and a kiss. Joy Behar gives you a big hug. Barbara Walters gives you a big hug. They all loved you. They were all talking about how you're, you might be conservative in your financial positions, but you're very liberal socially. They were talking about you in such a favorable light. The audience was cheering. And then you actually started winning in the polls, and then the machine started working towards you.
Yeah.
But there's probably no one in history that I've ever seen that's been attacked the way you've been attacked, and the way they've done it, so coordinated and systematically. And when you see those same people in the past, very favorable to you, like Oprah, when you were on Oprah's show,
very.
She was encouraging you to
Last
be president.
week.
But does he really want to add president of the United States to his resume? A lot of people would like him to. Please, let's find out, and please welcome my friend, Donald Trump.
My friend.
My friend, watch this. Just watch this. This is nuts. We're in an alternative universe, okay? Because this is not that long ago.
Go standing O.
Bro, watch this. Just watch how this goes. Watch this.
Holly a Trump tie, the best tie.
So she's a Republican. That's easy.
Yep.
But everybody else.
Look at Joy.
Hugs.
Can't wait to get a hug in.
Yeah, everyone's hugging. Look at this.
The NPCs in the
Look at
audience,
this.
probably.
Kisses,
Barbara.
hugs, kisses to Whoopi. Everybody hugs and kisses. Even Joy Behar. Hugs
Even
and
Joy
kisses.
Behar, hugs and kisses.
See? Now watch this.
So I'm going to take you at your word that you have not decided yet when you're going to run, but you're thinking about it, and you've expressed some of your views, which are controversial and in many ways, yeah, but
not to her.
Well, not to her. Okay, you're a Republican, so, but let's say that you do decide in the spring, right? And your ideas resonate so much. On the other hand, you know, we saw Newt Gingrich apologizing for his marriages and divorces. You've had 3 marriages, 2 sort of uncomfortable divorces. Do you think that the...
Not really. They were very comfortable.
Well, we won't leave you all. Do you think...
Getting laughs right away.
That would bother anybody?
I think the country is doing so badly, they want somebody that's going to help it. I think the country is never been in a position like it is right now. It's being ripped off by every nation, every intelligent nation in the world, whether it's China. They're taking our jobs, they're making all our product, and then they loan us back the money, we pay them interest.
That is
Whether
crazy.
it's OPEC.
That's crazy.
OPEC, which is,
look at this. Watch
having
this.
a field day right now. How about the Arab League? They say, we want you to go in and attack Libya. These are the wealthiest countries in the world. Why aren't they paying us?
Okay,
Why
so
aren't
then they
so
change
I
their
agree with
minds
that,
also.
but you didn't
So-
answer my question.
No, I did answer your question. I really think
it
people.
won't matter?
I think maybe 10 years ago it would have mattered. 5 years ago.
Yeah.
The fact is, I think people want somebody now that's going to protect them and protect this country, because we're not going to be a great country for long if we keep going the way we're going right now.
If you,
When
The audience cheers.
Yeah.
Whole crowd.
we have France France leading the charge, okay? France. This is our new leader.
Oh, that's
By the way,
embarrassing.
they led for about 2 hours. After that, nobody's seen them. I don't know if you know that or
closer
not.
than geographically, so they
Let me
should.
just ask a follow-up question to
Their
that.
lead is the point.
Let me just ask
instead of the
a
other way.
follow-up question to that. Let's say you run. You've given a lot of thought for this. Who would you like as your vice president? Possibly Sarah Palin?
Well, I think it's far too early even to discuss that. I'm going to make a decision sometime prior to June. I'm thinking about it very strongly. I think I'd do a really good job. I think I'd protect this country like it's not being protected. You know, it's funny. So many of the things I say, now politicians are saying, hey, that's right. Why aren't they paying us? If you look at North Korea, South Korea, we're protecting South Korea. They're making a fortune. Let's call it hundreds of billions of dollars of profit on us. We have 25,000 soldiers over there protecting them. They don't pay us. Why are they paying us?
You'd be treating this like a business.
No, a business with heart.
Okay.
Believe me, there's a lot of heart. It's a business, but it's also a business with heart. We will destroy this country. It won't be a war if the economics of this country keep going the way they're going. We're not going to have a country.
You're kind of a social liberal, Donald. You know,
better.
you're a social liberal. Could you actually get the base to vote for you in the primary?
Well, every poll is saying that I'm the one that does the best.
They
You know,
do.
they're doing polls.
They actually have you a higher approval rating than Mitt Romney, Tim Pawlenty, John Boehner. But out of those,
So let's just pause and think. Just
I mean, he's very poised. He's
but
listening.
Just
He's
grasp
like, yeah,
the 180
yeah.
that the media's taken on him
Yeah.
since he decided to be president.
Yeah.
When you see the machine go after a guy, we've never seen the machine go after someone as bold-faced. You know, the prosecutions, the
Yeah.
Russiagate stuff on
Yeah.
television every night, all of it.
Yeah.
And then to see just a few years ago, they loved him.
Yeah.
Everyone loved him. That's why it's so brilliant when Donald Trump published that book. I forget what it's called, the one that's in which he published the letters of all the famous people left and right. And they all loved him, sang him praises for decades. And as soon as he got in politics and started getting some momentum, that's when it all turned on him. And shoot, name one mainstream media news outlet that says anything positive about Trump. We'll discount Fox News. Like, just name one. What's one that's even moderately objective towards mainstream media in the United States? In general, no. About Trump, absolutely not. I think these are the big moments that really get people to think, why do we trust mainstream media? What have they done for us? And all the things Trump said, I mean, a lot of his policies worked phenomenally. People didn't like the angry tweets, but shoot, record low inflation, gas was record low as well. The first time the U.S. was energy independent in like 50 plus years. We had so much resources here. We are so efficient. We actually exported more than we imported. I mean, again, half a century, this never happened. I don't think it's a coincidence. It happened when Trump was in office. Now, going over here, some of the top highlights here today. You have to have Ian Miles Chong talking more about those discrepancies in the mainstream media. See here. She says, we'll go to the commentary because it's a similar video. He says, quote, blazing hot take from Joe Rogan's marathon chat with Donald Trump. If you missed it, it's an epic 3-hour showdown between Joe Rogan and Donald Trump. There's no nonsense, straight fire recap of the top 23 highlights. Trump and Rogan rip it to the media, accusing them of destroying facts and misleading the public with their narratives. The media is the propaganda arm of the Democrat Party, which, thanks to the undercover reporters, we have that producer at MSNBC bragging about not only dumbing down their audience, but also making them viscerally disgusted and disdainful of people on the right. And, of course, this person sells a job, and people are still tuning into MSNBC somehow. Now, some of the top comments here coming from Anything Animated Series says, quote, yes, this is pretty good. Ian getting 55 likes. Dr. Jebra Fashaway says, quote, every time I see this, I think about how amazing it will be when Kamala has 3 hours to share her wisdom with us on Joe's show. Getting 29 likes with a spoiler alert. She said no because, yeah, they would never actually do that because, well, let's just say 3 hours of wisdom. That's, how many more hours is that? Like 1 million more hours? No, that's infinitely more than what she has to say. She would waffle like there's no tomorrow. You have Jackals Charles said, quote, a perfect illustration of why the mainstream media are dying. The conversation is more valuable in terms of choosing candidate than all the mainstream media endorsements put together. Getting 41 likes. PP says, one of the greatest presidents of our time, and we're about to get round 2, getting 32 likes. Tomas Lund says Trump was great, getting 13 likes. Red Pilled ex-liberal says, quote, cackles can never do this. She's incapable of 10 minutes of coherent, free-form conversation, much less 3 hours. Getting 19 likes, which, yeah, how many minutes could she last without a teleprompter. How many seconds, for that matter? Also, without those ginormous Volkswagen-sized earrings that look suspiciously like audio gear. Yeah, I think she'd be toast, to say the least. But let me know what your thoughts are in the comments, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting takeaways from the Joe Rogan Donald Trump interview. Well, you have Kamala Harris saying she'll do it, but under the weakest of circumstances, and Joe says, yeah, that's ridiculous. We're not doing that. Now, this comes just thanks to Joe Rogan, as well as someone by the name of Robert Sterling on the good old X Twitter. Now, Joe Rogan says, quote, also, for the record, the Harris campaign has not passed on during the podcast. They have offered a date for Tuesday, but I would have to travel to her, and they only want to do an hour. I strongly feel the best way to do this is in my studio in Austin. My sincere wish is just to have a nice conversation and getting to know her as a human being. I really hope we can make it happen. Got 2.7 million views, and yeah, they're not gonna make that happen. There's like, I would bet, and I'm not a gambling man, but I would bet darn near anything that she would never do a 3-hour unscripted, unteleprompted podcast interview with Joe Rogan. Again, she's not gonna do that. She's not in control of the situation. There's just no way she could handle that. I mean, even the nicest of circumstances, even the one where they pushed back just a little bit with she actually did an interview, or attempted to do an interview with Fox News, even that she crashed and burned by just a little bit, just a modicum of pushback from Brett Baer, and she had a total meltdown. And even Joe Rogan, again, he's a nice guy. He's not going to be bombastic or, yelling at her or calling her names. Just asking nice, simple questions that aren't just straight up softball questions. Yeah, she would flake completely. Robert Sterling responded saying, quote, Joe Rogan wouldn't have Kamala Harris on his show unless she comes to his studio and sits for a 2 or 3 hour interview, just like Trump did. We've entered an age or era in which podcasts have more power than a sitting vice president. Thanks to a free and uncensored internet, the democratization of media and news reporting has finally been realized. Decades after online pioneers first dreamed of the possibility. This is why established politicians and regime journalists are so afraid of podcasts and social media, and why they're continuing to aggressively push regulation. True. A college dropout who started his career hosting Fear Factor and working as a UFC commentator is able to dictate the terms of a vice president, former senator, and former attorney general of the largest state of America. The presidential election is in 1 week. She needs him and his audience far more than he needs her. You gotta love seeing this, unquote. And again, that got 2.7 million views, and yeah, she's not going to. Now, apparently JD Vance is going to be on the Joe Rogan Experience, which, again, he could, because he has thoughts and ideas that he can express. Let me know in the comments, what's the number one reason why you think Kamala would never go on a Joe Rogan podcast? But going to the top comments, scrolling down more and more, you have somebody named Pete Bray saying, yo, he was on News Radio before Fear Factor, getting 1.6 thousand likes, which, true, that's a pretty good comedy. Mark Delaney says, quote, real downside to this, Rogan, and I'm a fan, is a journalist. He treated Trump interview like any podcast he does, just a conversation. If these podcast platforms are going to be the sources of news, then podcasters have to be willing to ask hard-hitting questions, getting 273 likes, which, again, Joe did push back with a couple of awkward topics. He talked about the pandemic, the lockdowns, the jab. So, again, he didn't give Trump a free pass, so I think he treated him about the same as he would with any interview. Now, going back to the comment section, you also have Mark Labier says, it's his show, his terms, getting 428 likes. Chris Hatch says, now you have the Fear Factor champ, and evidently fear is not a factor for you. Really amazing to be alive. Good write-up, Robert, getting 391 likes. Let's see. I can't pronounce this, but I will attempt nevertheless. Meme Freeing Sta? This is like a 2% chance I got that right. Okay, 1% chance I got that right. Now, this individual says, quote, she would drown in the environment because it's neither sanctioned or combative. She has no internal drives aside from the condemning anyone her minders call the enemies. She can't explain herself. There's no self. Getting 2.6 thousand likes. Let's see. Rolo Martin says he has no power. She ain't doing it. Getting 329 likes. Again, click that subscribe button. It may very well help with my speaking ineptitudes. When I first started the show, believe it or not, I had only a couple subscribers, probably my parents, but nevertheless, my speaking was terrible. I stumbled over my words left and right. I mispronounced things even more. I spoke way too fast, mostly monotone. And when it comes to stumbling over the words, I stumbled over my words about at the same rate which Joe Biden would stumbling up a stairs. Not great. But as I slowly but surely gain more subscribers, I become slowly but surely more articulate. Granted, some might argue it's just a modicum of improvement, but I would argue improvement nevertheless, leading to my theory that if you go ahead and click that button, it will help with my speaking journey, and someday we'll make it through an entire podcast speaking perfectly, fluently, and articulately. Granted, some might say it's just a pie in the sky dream, but wise man would say you have to aim. You aim for the stars and you land somewhere to that effect. So go ahead and click that button, tell your friends. I would greatly appreciate it. Now going back to the comments I was attempting to read, you have Patriotic John saying, quote, same standards for every guest from Joe Rogan. Kamala is trying to get special treatment, getting 1.5 thousand likes, which can't blame her, I guess, because she got special treatment her whole life. Let's see. She was given the job of the presidential nominee. I mean, they literally just wheeled her into that position. She had to fight for it or, work for it. You have Russell saying, a former president of the United States managed to do it. Seems like she could too. Real issue is why she only wanted it to be 1 hour. That's just long enough to say she did it. Getting 576 likes, which, yeah, she attempted to do, I believe, the 60 Minutes interview with CNN, or was it Watch? No, it was actually the show called 60 Minutes. She attempted to do it, and they cut so much it got whittled down to like 18 minutes. And they also straight up manipulated in pure 1984 dystopian fashion. She would give an answer, and they actually rewrote the answer for her to make it sound more articulate. Granted, it was just slightly better in terms of articulation, but they still edited it and manipulated the data. Chrome says, like every other guest in history of JRE, getting 260 likes. Again, most people seem to think Joe treated Trump with the same, same respect as well as, push of a regular interview that he would have. And yeah, I think this is probably going to be one of Donald Trump's greatest moments. And I was actually going to say, to summarize that, we'll go ahead and talk about Joe's after reception. But in the meantime, let me know in the comments, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Going on to the final segment of the Joe Rogan Donald Trump interview, well, post in this case, talk about Joe Rogan, Eddie Bravo, Brandon Traub, and more, where they react to the recent interview. Now, this comes to us thanks to the good old X-Twitter, specifically Chief Nerd, who decided to repost this segment, in which the Chief Nerd, which, a little sumptuous that he's the chief one, and I'm a little disappointed. The photo picture is not, in fact, of Master Chief from the good old game Halo, but I partially digress. This alleged Chief Nerd on X-Twitter says, quote, Joe Rogan gives his thoughts on how the podcast went with the President Trump interview. And while Joe's voice is infinitely better than mine, go ahead and I'll play a couple minutes here.
Were you at all nervous for Trump?
I was definitely hyped up. I was excited because I wanted to. There's a lot of questions I need to answer.
Did you feel pressure?
No, not pressure.
Pressure mean like make sure you covered everything you want to cover.
No. Just like I knew what was important.
Did you
not
prepare for
necessarily?
it?
Yeah.
Did you ask him why he was so pro-vaccine?
No, I didn't. But I also wanted to be rigid because there was a moment where he brought up the polio vaccine. I was like, oh, I don't want to correct him. I don't want to show like when have you ever seen the chart of when polio actually dropped off when the vaccine was introduced?
I reference it all the time.
It's all bullshit.
Yeah,
that's a rough one. When you look at the actual, like, there's a bunch of them. Measles is another one, and you look at what actually happened.
Vaccine talk as a
exactly, and I don't want to get involved in a podcast where there's a lot of shit I want to get to. Yeah. I want to know what the fuck is in the JFK files.
Did you?
That's what we talked about. I didn't see that part because I've seen.
He said there's a lot of people that are still alive, and I said, okay, so that's why you wouldn't release it because some of the people that are going to be implicated are still alive. So what that's saying to me is that the government was involved.
100%. Everybody knows.
But
that.
I said that, and he kind of he danced a little.
The politician came out.
No, he's real good at you ask him a question, and he starts to answer it, but then he takes you on a totally different route.
The weave.
But you got to bring him back in, but you got to be respectful. So it's like I knew that's the way he does it, but I'm like I understand what you're doing, sir. But let's get it back to what I was asking you.
Yeah, you did that a couple times.
I was like, I want to know what that first fucking day is like, and I don't think I really got that answer out of him.
I don't think he remembers.
I think he does. What I'm talking about is like this feeling of now you have to appoint 10,000 people, and now you have to figure out how this machine works when you've never governed at all, and they don't show you any of that when you're running for president. It's not like a training program.
Details.
Like, hey, Brendan, you might be president, so we're going to show you. This is how deals get made.
I like what he said about John Bolton. He said, yeah, he's a whack job, but you know what was cool about him? When I went to fucking Iran and I had John Bolton, they all knew he was he was ready to drop bombs. He's called him a whack job, but he had his purpose.
That kind of mindset. The problem with the Trump stuff is just that the people look at the inflammatory things he says, the crazy shit, and they define him by that. But you also have to remember this is a very bizarre combination of an entertainer and a businessman. So it's an entertainer that, he's like a comedian, man. He says funny shit. He does it all the time.
Very funny.
He's always
Constantly
when he makes fun
roasting.
of Biden.
Constantly roasting.
He's funny,
He's
man.
New York. He's very New
Yeah,
York.
he's
I
He's
miss
a
the
real
fact
New
that
Yorker.
the nicknames he gives to people that they have to be
Tampon
funny.
Tim.
Yeah, if they weren't, if it wasn't funny, he wouldn't use it. Like Tampon Tim.
Yeah,
But my
part of
point
his
came up with
genius
that?
my
seeing
point
where
is
you're coming
people
from.
don't know what to do with that.
Yeah.
And they want to pretend that all these other people are somehow or another like morally better because you don't get to see the real them. Like, I don't buy that. I don't think you should either. I don't think that's how people really are. I think, and when you see over and over and over and over again the media manipulating things and lying about things to make him seem way worse than he
Call
is.
him Hitler?
You should be suspicious.
Yes.
You should be
There's
real
a reason
suspicious.
why they're doing that.
Exactly.
Joe,
Because they don't want to lose that job. They're in desperado mode now.
Did you have a different perspective after? You don't know him well, right?
I don't know him at all.
But
I
after sitting
literally
down for
never
3 hours-
had a conversation with him other than "nice to meet you, sir." And he complimented me. I said, "Thank you. You're really good at this UFC stuff."
Yeah,
like
no
that kind of
shit.
thing.
Yeah.
Like, thank you, thank you, sir.
But after 3 hours, did you have a different impression of him or no?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's a businessman. Bottom line, he likes making deals. That's what it is. Like that's his whole thing. And he's got this ability to just keep going. This is what's crazy. Like the podcast is 3 hours long. The guy didn't pee before the podcast. He didn't pee after the podcast.
Maybe he had a
just
little
left.
catheter.
Maybe
And he
he
drinks more Diet Cokes than me.
But he didn't drink anything during the podcast.
Gangster.
He just sat here and we talked, and they were freaking out there because he was 2 hours late for something he was doing in Michigan. He didn't give a fuck. He's like, I know this is going to be bigger than that. Let's just keep going. We did 3 hours.
Damn.
But at the end of it, he's, I don't know him other than the 3 hours that I talked to him when he was trying to be at his best.
And
right?
Kamala Harris has not said yes yet.
She hasn't said no either. People keep saying she said no.
Her
I
team's
said I
smart.
would have a conversation with her like a human being. That's all I want to do. That's literally all I want to do.
But that's trouble
I want to
for
know
her.
what is it like to be. I don't even give a fuck about all the stuff she's talked about policies and all these different things. We know her positions. Like, who are you?
Oh, no one knows that either. And this is pretty valid. Got 4.4 million views and 60,000 likes. The first comments comes from Don Wick. I don't think in relation to John Wick. But actually digress. It says, quote, the 3 hour long form conversation with presidential candidates should be mandatory. Yeah, it should be. Got 4.7 thousand likes, which, yeah, I think very few people can BS that long. I mean, again, I think the presidential debate would have been 1,000 times more entertaining, but also more effective in terms of communicating ideals and debating actual policy. If they were to have a 3 hour sit down, just have them both go on Joe Rogan, more people would tune in, be a lot more interesting, a lot more. Well, I suspect leftists wouldn't do it because it'd be a lot less biased. But I think you would gain, or you and I would gain a lot more additional, helpful information by having that. Because again, I mean, a lot of these debates, they're really just to get sound quips and go viral, which, again, those work to a certain extent to get more people to vote, get more people interested. They'll donate more left and right. But in terms of actually debating the substance, that's becoming rarer and rarer. Granted, there are a lot of people who just say vote blue no matter who. Doesn't really debate. Shoot, at that point, it really doesn't matter what person's on the ballot or what policies there are, which is quite concerning. Some would be that mentally vacuous. And there are a couple of people who do it on the right as well. Don't get me wrong, if they just see an R next to the name, they'll vote for them, which is not wise because there's a lot of rhinos, pejoratively known as Republicans in name only, who say they're Republican, but have in no way represent the ideals of anything the Republican Party stands for. Now, going to some of their top comments here, you have the Vigilant Fox. Interesting, appropriate name because the profile picture is a fox, and they actually have a fox emoji. Though, of course, not great marketing. It is not, in fact, Fox News. Granted, they're not good at marketing anyway, but nevertheless, this Vigilant Fox says, quote, pretty cool reaction for Rogan, getting 1.1 thousand likes. Todd Lilly says, quote, notice how when Trump was late, he made a decision to stay as opposed to Kamala and Brett Baer, who ended up, ending abruptly 20 minutes early, or after 20 minutes, getting 1.6 thousand likes, which, yep. Do you have a favorite leftist, Luke Zaleski? Well, not really favorite, but I try to follow people of different ideologies because echo chambers can get a little bit boring. Luke's best known for, he has pride that he pins to the top of his profile page is talking about how a young boy should not be allowed to play football. He also has a weird picture where his profile picture is him as a cartoon wearing a V-neck, which no respected man would ever advertise them in that regard. As you know, all good men always suit up, obviously. Now, Luke says, quote, I'm actually pretty surprising. This is the first time all year I think that Luke has actually addressed somewhat of the substance of the post, as opposed to the cliche where he just does a copy-paste of Orange Man bad or Elon Musk bad. So he actually does address the substance, so I'm pretty shocked. Now Luke says, quote, Wow, amazing. I don't know how it could possibly add it all up. Seriously though, is acting like sitting and talking and lying and spreading the same ridiculous script he's been flogging nonstop for a decade without pissing one parts of a superpower being incredulous enough. Interesting. Well, not really, but did get 28 likes. On top comments come from John, who says, quote, even I would have needed to pee before the podcast as well as after as well. Trump is a gangster, getting 1,000 likes. People are really focusing on that. Tesla Sky says, Joe Rogan forgot to mention that Trump then flew to Michigan and did another 2-hour rally. Trump is a machine. Say what you want about him, but his work ethic should be studied. I've never seen anything like it. Getting 1.2 thousand likes, which quite a juxtaposition between Biden, who goes to bed around 4 p.m. or something like that. Granted, everyone knows you don't go to bed at 4 p.m. That's usually dinner time. I'm only partially kidding. Now, Trump news, interesting profile, says, quote, Trump's energy is unmatched, 3 hours straight, no breaks. This guy's built different. That's the stamina America needs. Getting 760 likes, which is even more impressive, again, because Trump's in his 70s. He has more energy than Kamala, who's in her 60s. Let's see. Pin2's World says, Joe Rogan to Trump after the podcast. It's the gal from the airplane said that MFR is not real, getting 107 likes. Let's see here. Any contrarian statements? God Particle says, I can't even sit on a Zoom meeting for 45 minutes without getting jittery. He's a machine, getting 153 likes. Ben says, long form news is truly the way. 3 hours of chopping it up for people to understand you. Better than sound bites and pre-rehearsed script, getting 107 likes. Which, notice how there's no teleprompter in that room, and I don't think Kamala could do that. They'll let me know differently if you think so in the comments. So, overall, one of the most legendary interviews that Joe Rogan's ever done, bar none. I mean, within the first 24 hours, he got like 28 million views on, YouTube alone. He also posted it on X Twitter, as well as obviously Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all those. I hope we get some of the analytics at the end of the day in terms of what was the total amount of views given every single media outlet. And I wonder how many people were persuaded or shifted into getting the support and giving it to Donald Trump. Again, the election is, seems like it is a couple days away, but it'll be here literally before we know it. And some people already, early voting. Do you think it was an effective use of Donald Trump's time? I mean, I certainly do. I think he got a couple more of those last independent voters who might be sitting on the fence. And I think it has also reinvigorated his voting base and, encourage people to, get out and vote. But let me know your thoughts in the comments, because as always, it'd be fascinating to hear what you have to say. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in. Again, trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of the month. So if you can click that button, I greatly appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or a comment. It's a great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe, fight the good fight.